Need to get my email
Yeah,
straightened
I'm
out.
looking.
Some people are getting them and some are not, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
And same thing with receiving. I'm getting some things, and some things I'm not getting.
That's strange. Well, I'll go back there and look, figure out, but I have not, when did you send it today? Did you
I sent it yesterday.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I see Mr. Niles here. We are live. Thank you all for attending our September briefing. I have mixed feelings in terms of this year. Feels like it's been going on forever, and yet, you know, it's September, right? And so we're about to hit fall. So, hopefully everyone's safe and healthy, and good to see you all. We'll go ahead and get started with our agenda. I believe everyone's received their packet. First item is, are there any adjustments to the briefing agenda? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I'll make that move.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made. Receive the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll move right on down to general business. Start with council. Ms. Harris?
Just really quick, I know I ask about this almost every time. I know that we started the meetings with DOT. I was just curious about the Tally Street. Has that come up in any conversations recently with DOT?
Every conversation we have with DOT. We are finalizing the paperwork. It has been expedited. Even in our bike ped projects, it is being discussed there as part of what we do and have done. Also, just to remind you all, we've had a couple traffic impact analyses that were done for traffic signals or stoplights that we were hoping to get done. It was discussed in both of those, even though they come back and told us that the traffic analysis did not score well enough for us to get the traffic signals. They came back and a few weeks later and told us, due to the analysis that they used for the traffic impact analysis, due to the they had failed to include the Main Street, Highway 21, 115 expansion that was supposed to have occurred by now and relatively soon, because that has been kicked down the road for numerous years again, because they failed to include that in the analysis project. That they want to come back and reconsider that, and also due to the program that we have been, that has pending now, going into its 5th year since we originally submitted it to CRTPO for discussion, and then it got approved 4 years ago. But because of that development that is occurring down across from Inglewood and the vast expansion of it, that has increased the likelihood that there would be a traffic signal required at Main Street and Tally. But also, in speaking with Andrew Ventresca and planning staff, we feel like that the numbers have been approved by the state, and we should start putting out some type of bidding process through our engineers. Hopefully, if not by the end of this year, by at least early 2022, so that project starts moving a little more quick. Unfortunately, we found, because it was not handled properly by previous staff members, nobody in the room, nobody currently employed, but because it was not handled properly, there could have been a shift in the funding model of what was required to input by this town, and unfortunately that did not get properly shifted. So We still are on the hook for the majority of the project, but still it is, and unfortunately, as has happened with all building projects, they have went up about 30% in that time frame. So that could be a significant impact that we will have to come back and give you all the bad news of how much that's going to be over what the original project originally was supposed to cost.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry for the long answer, but that was the truth of everything.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Ms. Williams?
Well, I was oh, there he is, Adam. I was
Yes, ma'am.
getting ready to say, I was hoping Adam would be here, because this first comment was gonna be directed to him. How often do you do the edging along the curb on Eastway?
As often as we can. We have been short-staffed the past few weeks due to some staffing issues, staffing challenges. We try to do it once a month, every 4 weeks. I did notice last time it was time to do it, so I'm aware of it, and we're gonna try to get that taken care of. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess, I don't know who this goes to, but the newsletter, I was out of town, so, I just got mine today from the post office. And I noticed a couple of things in it. It had on the calendar part of it, the agenda briefing was scheduled for yesterday. That was on the calendar, in the newsletter. And the trash pickup, it didn't have it listed that it was a day later. It had recycling would be for today, and so I was just wondering about that. Is that just a standard thing, or does anybody really check that, or?
That was my mistake. That was my mistake. I got it.
Okay, I mean, I'm not fussing at anybody, I was just wondering. And when I noticed, I think it was in August or July, I can't remember which. Are we supposed to get our newsletters through the mail on the 1st? Is there a by date?
Come with your water bill.
I know, but, cause like one month, I checked my mail for the 1st of the month for every day, and I didn't get it till like the 3rd or the 4th of that month.
That varies with the company. Ever since I've been here, I get told something different, and I've not got a solidified answer since I've been here as the town manager. We submit it by a certain day, and if you will recall, 1 month they didn't send the two out together, and that causes more confusion for the taxpayers that we as staff get blamed for, but it ultimately is the vendor that we're using.
Right.
And if we can't get more of a defined answer, then it may be something that we start looking at, what is the issue with them delivering on a certain date. Also, they're at the mercy of the postal service, and that if they do drop shipment, the postal service is not delivering everything in unison either. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. And I appreciate Emily saying that she was responsible for the first part, but I also want to remind that we've had a change in staff, and that we also are trying to do certain things. So a lot of these questions that you ask is in changing staff, we've got other people doing their full-time jobs, and then also are picking up other pieces. So in doing that, we are human, and we're gonna make some mistakes, so please keep that in mind as well.
Sure, no problem. I wasn't trying to bash anybody,
I
just a
understand.
question.
I understand, and just want to explain, you know, I appreciate we need to be accountable to the citizens and to you all as council all at the same time, and will absolutely be happy to be in doing so.
Also, and I know this deals with McCoy's too, do they send a schedule? How do we schedule the limb pickup? Is it done with them, or they just say, here are the days we're gonna come? Because it's usually the first Monday and Tuesday of the new month, but this month it's next week.
Well, this month was the holiday. Adam, how have they done that consistently in the past?
They usually give a makeup day where they come back Thursday.
Excuse me, sir, can you take the mask off temporarily while
Yes,
you're
sir.
talking?
Yes, sir.
I apologize.
No, you're
but
fine.
it's,
I
you
don't
know,
ever want, I don't know.
I appreciate it, thank you, sir.
A makeup day, usually is how we've been doing it in the past. and that's usually provided, on the calendar. We'll take a look at that and see.
I just wonder because
Yeah.
normally, because my husband had asked me last week, when's the next pickup? So I said,
Mhm.
well, you know, Monday's a holiday, so it'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I saw one.
Yeah, let me
It's
check,
next
I'll
week.
check with Robbie.
It's not a big deal,
Yeah.
but, you know, I just, you know, I just wondered if it's consistent so all citizens would know it's
Right,
consistently.
Right, yeah, I'll check with him tomorrow and we'll get on the same page and make sure everything's taken care of.
Okay, and, I just wanted to make sure that, I read, I believe it was your text on Friday. I'm not really sure, what day, it may have been Thursday, that we have canceled all town-supported things like trails and treats and,
No, that was not my intent, if that's the way it was interpreted. What I advised was to be mindful that we are not actively promoting, we're kind of in a holding pattern.
okay,
Because of how severe the COVID is, the social media is ablaze with what is happening, and there are numerous schools that have went to virtual because of what has happened. And regardless of how we try to proceed with being cautious and following the protocols that are out there, we have always referred to what the governor has mandated first, but we have also tried to be very proactive in supporting and making sure that our employees are safe and those that enter the buildings are safe, and that's paramount. We being a small staff, unlike the county governments, our neighbors to the north and south of us, we are more vulnerable than anybody else. So we have to be a little more proactive in how we react to what is happening with the news that is coming out with what's happening with COVID. So when the health director, Jane Henson, sent out the email that went to basically all the city managers, the county manager, the chairman of the county commission, and then the mayors, that advised us that they strongly urged through the health department and her that we go to mask mandates. Instead of making it a political football, I took their advice, and then we immediately went into the mask mandate for the town hall, for example, and while some of our neighbors had the luxury because of how many staff members they have, we don't. If we have an outbreak of it here in town hall, then we basically have to shut down and we can't operate business. So as your manager, I made the decision to quickly follow their advice and to make sure that we went into mask mandates. We have several employees here that have varying health conditions and varying things that we still can service the public by drive-through and or meeting them outside. So as I stated on the radio, I think Mayor Pro Tem and one of the other council members commented here and about it on the radio station. It's not that we're not servicing our citizens, we most certainly are. But if they want to come into town hall, we ask that they wear the mask. That way our employees that are here, and they may see 100 a day, and we don't know what condition people are that come in. So if they're wearing the mask, and the whole intent of a mask is the person wearing the mask keeps from exposing whoever they come in contact with. Just like the schools pointed out that if everybody's wearing masks and somebody gets exposed, then they can continue doing schools. Same thing here. If we have masks, then that protects our employees that are here trying to serve everybody else. So if somebody comes through and wants to do town business, they can drive through the town drive-through and we can still service them. But as small as we are and as small staff as we are, and already we're already having to do our full-time job and some other jobs, if we had an outbreak, we would severely be handicapped as far as how we service all the citizens. So that's why I was trying to caution last week in the Thursday and Friday text was we have to be mindful of that. The social media storm that is going on out there, why are these social events still allowing to be occurred in and around Troutman if we're doing mask mandates throughout, if the schools are doing virtual learning and those type of things. I reached out to the county health director and said, hey, what do you advise about these events? They basically sent a general letter through an employee that said, hey, right now we're just saying be careful, be mindful. But again, us being mindful of the resources that we have, what I have directed staff to do was put the brakes on and not start promoting all of our events months in advance, because if you all will recall as council, we really took a hit very bad of criticisms of why we didn't promote events, or why was we trying to do events last year, and then all of a sudden we had to cancel them because of the governor's orders or because of Jane Henson's orders last year at the last week or two before the events. So instead of us getting into that same situation again this year, that we're going to do this, and because a couple of council members concerned this year of, hey, we don't want to get into the same cycle, we're starting to promote these events, but then we're going to have to slam on the brakes at the last minute or two and say go into the hyper COVID protocols. Let's just warn all events that are here, go into COVID protocols now and be mindful that they may not occur. And that's what we started doing. We've got the Walk for Recovery this week, this Saturday, and we've advised them to use COVID protocols at their event. That's one example of an event we got coming up that is already being proactive to do that, and they're still having their event, but they have got all the COVID protocols in place to be mindful of the social distancing and all of those things. So that's all my text was, is to be mindful that it is a very hot situation in Iredell County. We're one of the worst counties as far as exposure goes and as far as what the statistics are, and that's all it was.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And my last thing is, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Andrew's aware of it, and our mayor, but I just wanted to let the rest of council know that that the STIP/P6-0 presentation was included, and I didn't make notes of it, but I wanted to let you know that the projects, there isn't enough money to do the projects already on the STIP, so the projects are going to be reprioritized, but nobody knows how they're going to do that right now, so it's still up in the air. So, and I think you said not long ago that we got turned down, that we didn't score high enough, so maybe we can add something to it or whatever and put it back out there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then on Thursday, I'll have some updates from the transportation meetings tomorrow night. And it's gone back all virtual.
Good. Anything else?
That's it.
Mr. Now?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. The first thing I want to echo Councilwoman Williams's point with the little mistakes. And again, our town manager said, we're not perfect, we make mistakes, but we got to do a better job dotting our I's and crossing our T's. We had that financial debacle with sanitation on 4th of July, and thank God we didn't have another one with Labor Day, okay? But I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but we've got to do a better job getting the information out to our residents, because they don't call town hall. If I live in a development of 95 people, they contact me, and I have to answer these people. So I would just appreciate it if we could do a little better job there also. The second thing that I have that's been going on near where I live is the business on Barrium Lane and 21, the auto body that's, I guess, full to the capacity. I had some elderly residents where I live that have a hard time getting out of Barrium Lane and 21 when they're getting deliveries. And when I say deliveries, these are trucks delivering wrecked cars. These are Chevrolet, Ford, like Mooresville Ford, Randy Marion Chevrolet. They park in the street to make deliveries because they have no space inside. So here's an elderly resident, okay, and it's not one, it's about 3 or 4 that has complained. Has to go around the parked vehicle, it's blind, because it's happened to me already. blind to get to the corner to the stop sign. It's gotta be, we gotta correct this. I mean, they're already, with code enforcement, I'm gonna ask next on what the status is on the code enforcement with that. But that's a complaint there. Can somebody bring me up to date on the code enforcement on the place?
Sure. To address a couple things you said. One, the employee that made the mistake back in July is no longer with us.
I'm aware of that.
As you said and acknowledged, we're humans, we make mistakes. For all the listeners that are on YouTube and everywhere else, once we are aware of a mistake, we absolutely take pride in the production that all of our employees do. There's not one mistake that happens here that we don't go back and try to correct. So anything that we're aware of that occurs, we absolutely take pride in what we produce and try to correct it. So the employee that made that mistake that you're referring to, they're no longer employed. So for the citizens that was upset about that called you, then that's the thing that you can tell them is the employee is no longer working here. So there should be satisfaction in that. As far as the business that you're talking to about Barium, unfortunately, as our town council can tell you, once we find that there's violations with these businesses, our code enforcement officer that is here starts notifying them that there are violations and sends them notification that you're in violation because. And there's numerous violations that have been occurring at that business, and he has been notified and is in the process of being worked. But once those violations have been noticed, they get 30 days to correct and or do certain things. As far as the parking in the streets, that's a motor vehicle violation and not a code enforcement violation, which would fall back to our police. They patrol that area, and they have already been told several months ago, if you see any delivery vehicles or any other vehicles that's violating the path or traffic, by all means, use your discretion in whether it warrants a warning or a real citation or anything else. The business owner himself has been told. Business owners beside him have been told of other neighborhood complaints and businesses complaining that they're allowed to use their business parking lot areas also. So the business owner has been informed that there's plenty of parking that can be shared for these deliveries. Now, if people are continuing to do that, I can only assume they're doing that out of their own choice or own accord. But the police chief is aware. Go ahead.
They were contacted last week again for that same, probably one of the ladies that called, they called and left a message, and I called and left her voicemail back, and she didn't answer, but I had sent some officers back by there to contact the owner. He was not available, contacted the next guy, come in, advised him, try to find out, make sure they're not parking on the street. If we find out, then we'll use our discretion.
That's the same resident that contacted me, and she said out of the last 10 trips that she went up Barium Lane to 21, 3 times trucks were blocking. Now, I know we can't monitor and keep a police officer there all the time, but it is a very dangerous situation.
I agree, it is. Our police department has been informed, but especially right now, just like the school traffic's in the morning, I have personally dealt with like 9 or 10 phone calls that I've dealt with various citizens that are upset because of the school traffic. We have 2 officers working a shift at a time. Daytime it's a little bit more. Our school resource officers were the only ones that was even dealing with directing school traffic, in addition to our 2 officers that were patrolling traffic. Now, Statesville, I'm told, has their SROs at the high school that help direct traffic at the end of the day, so we're no longer the only SROs that's dealing with directing traffic at all. So Statesville at least has that SRO that's helping direct traffic at the end of the day. But the simple fact of the matter is, our police department is doing a great job in trying to help, but once we have, literally, as we have all said before, our citizenry doubles during the school hours in the morning and in the afternoon when traffic is trying to let out, our officers simply, when you have 2 officers, They simply can't be everywhere at the same time that demand is there. So we would love to help put a stop to this up there. They are aware, as the interim police chief just acknowledged, but if these citizens see it and they call into ECOM and Highway Patrol, because Barium Lane is not just a city street, it's also a state highway. If they would call into both of us, whoever can get there first to make sure that being dealt with, the more these people start getting citations and dealt with, then maybe that'll start making sense to them. But we're absolutely aware of it and are trying to deal with it. I apologize that it seems that this lady has, every time she leaves her house, she's seeing it, but we're absolutely trying to deal with it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I will let her know. You did say that this gentleman at this business has been notified it's been longer than 30 days with those sheds up there and different things.
They just
So-
came through Design Review Board this past week. Once we issued them the notice, it's not just you fix it or you're fined. Once they're issued the notice, then he's got a process that he can go through. It's not just you take it down or else, then he applies for a permit. He comes through Design Review Board, and they just met last week and discussed what his options were. So the process is ongoing. Some of these things can take 6 months before it goes through its process of he's up to standards or they are moved. But he is going through the process for like the sheds that's in front of the business.
Okay. Next thing I had is, again, I myself witnessed this, and I had complaints from about 3 or 4 other. The street sweeper that comes to the neighborhoods. Again, you can see a street sweeper up where I live on Autumn Frost, and it goes through a whole development up there. But there's 2 of them in the street sweeper. Yes, two of them were on 2 Thursdays ago. And one was on the phone while he was operating the sweeper, and the brushes weren't down. The sucker part of the sweeper was, and he's going down the middle of the road. Well, I always thought the street sweeper is supposed to go from curb on one side, back it round to the other side to the curb. Well, he's going down the middle of the road. I mean, I brought this up maybe a year and a half ago. Maybe it got a little better, I don't really know, but we're not getting for what we're paying for.
Okay.
I'll contact Robbie, contact about the name pickup, and I'll mention that to him. I've had some complaints, so.
I can verify some of Eddie's. The day that they came by on Eastway, there were 2. Normally there's not, but there were 2. That morning, at the southern end of Eastway, I don't know what the problem was, but they were out on the street with shovels, and I guess maybe from some rain and maybe some sediment, and I don't know, but they were shoveling something. And then later that day, they came up through Eastway, and there were 2 in there. Like I said, normally they're not, but actually that day, he was going much slower and did a better job than what I've seen in the past.
Right. Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's normally what they're doing is they've got somebody there training them, but riding down the middle of the road, I don't know how good that's training anybody, but,
Yeah, the middle of the road don't need to be swept.
it's normally, not a place to collect, so, I just told Doug, I'm gonna check on the, makeup date for the limbs, and I will mention that to him tomorrow, and just let him know, make sure his guys are cognizant of, let's make sure we're doing this right, so.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. If Doug can handle that, yes, sir.
I just have just 2 more quick things. I want to thank the police department for doing a good job with moving the people that are parking on in Barium Caesar's Village. I went out there myself and watched, and there was an officer. He moved about 5. When I say moved, asked about 5 or 6 vehicles to move. They did move, and the other people that came, when they saw the police vehicle, they left. So I did call, sent Doc a text on that, and and they were right there and did a good job, so I want to thank them. And my last question would be, with code enforcement, I know we got an outside company doing it, and we've talked, I mean, about eventually going to a full-time code enforcement person here. I've spoken with community residents. One was an ex-town council person, and I'm not saying that her and I, we got the right answer, and we should do this, but are we close to maybe gonna get a code enforcement officer?
To be perfectly honest, in getting our planning department up to speed and then refocusing on what our other needs were, I put a lot on the code enforcement's plate that was here and trying to get some of those issues dealt with. I have not put a lot of effort and focus into making that a full-time position. I thought some other things in town were more of a priority, and me being blunt and honest. I absolutely can look at that position. If you all on council think that that's more of a priority than some of our other needs, and absolutely give it more attention. Lynn has had experience in the past with her previous experience of dealing with actually the same contract and the same person of being a contracted service and then transitioning into full-time. I honestly don't remember from our conversation if that person stayed full-time code enforcement or if they also had in duties, but code enforcement was part of their main job function. But in me looking at it from where we were to where we go, that was kind of my expectations as we went, was once we lost that service, that it would go to transition into a full-time slot eventually. But because of what our needs were with the town, once we got planning department up to speed with planners, I really started focusing on the other departments and not the code enforcement, being perfectly honest. But again, I can refocus and look at that more, give it more attention if need be.
Thank you. Again, it's only my opinion, and I don't know how the rest of my council members feel, but it's an area where people see the town and different things, okay? It's very visible. And it's almost like, you know, in New York City, oh, let's crack down on the panhandlers and jaywalkers, and because that leads to other problems. So even though code enforcement is very minor on some things, people ride by and see signs, people ride by and see buildings. It's very important that I think we keep that up.
I don't disagree with you, and based off of where we was 10 months ago to where we are now, I think most citizens already see a drastic change. But I'm not arguing or disagreeing that we shouldn't continue in that same approach.
Thank you. I'm done, Mr. Mayor.
I just have one question, based on the conversation that you and Sally and Gary and I had a week or so ago around our equipment when people leave. I was just wondering, do we have a policy or some paper forms that people have to sign that they've turned everything back in whether they quit or dismissed or anything? If not, what do we need to do to get something? I was concerned about that in the example you gave me in Knoxville. I thought we need to make sure we don't get to that position there.
That is in the process. We do not currently have a policy, and that's one of the things I was discussing with you all a month ago. We do not have a good on-board policy of a checklist of what we do for citizens that start employment, and we surely don't have a great exit policy that is just as strong.
Yeah,
And honestly, I did not make a proper adjustment to the agenda briefing, but we do need to discuss a matter in closed session for legal that will be just that, of what transpires when a person exits and what should happen.
Yeah, I got to think about that the other day. We must not have some kind of sign-off sheet for if things you were talking about, how they could happen.
Yes, sir.
George, can I ask a question? I'm not up to speed on what you were just talking about. Could you let me know what happened?
Well, a former employee that was here has left, but they actually still have a pretty expensive piece of equipment, something of ours, that they still have in their home. And then we were talking about Montville, that I guess after they shut down their place, they'll end up getting the guns back or something, things that shouldn't be. So it was kind of like, and then he mentioned a couple other things that made me think, we need a policy, or do we have one, to sign off sheets? I know in my years of employment, you had signed what you took, and it was signed off when you walked away from here, even if you quit. You especially got it, burned the bridges that he burned with the council and social media. I definitely want him to have a family virus.
That's right.
How you feel, George? I'm a little ambivalent. How do you feel, sir?
Well, thank you, George.
Thank you for saying what I thought, Ms. Hinkle. Anything else, George? Somebody get him some water.
Well, listening and some things that, hearing Felita bring up about the sidewalks, and then, town manager's response to that, and, that just takes me back to, for 4 years, and 2 planners ago, I used to ask like you just about every meeting, and I think the one planner that the town manager is referring to, I used to ask him a lot, even between meetings, what's going on. And the responses were, there's no money, can't do a thing, and perhaps there was something could have been done. So there you go. It's just whoever's in charge. And things that are just, balls dropped that are just unfortunately that shouldn't have been dropped. And hence, we still don't have a walkway down there that people were promised 4 or 5 years ago. So very sad to hear that. And the situation, up here, the code enforcement, there again, that's been something that's been talked back and forth. And I would certainly, if needed, if we need a code enforcement officer full-time to get the job done, so be it. However, I would want to talk with, hear from the town manager, what the priorities are, and, make decisions then. But in the interim, I think we're, 25 hours limited with our current, and my suggestion would be, in the meantime, while we discuss a full-time individual or not, that we increase the hours to what's needed per week. And I'm hoping he's being proactive and not reactive as far as complaints driven. It used to be, and I thought we got that settled 2 years ago, long before you came on board, that he was to get in that car and go out and be proactive, as opposed to sitting at his desk waiting for somebody to call in and say, hey, I've got a complaint, and then he gets in the car and goes out and takes care of that, comes back to the office. And I'm being a little simple-minded in saying what I'm saying. I realize that there's a little bit more to it than that, but I would hope that he is out there driving around looking for things and not waiting for somebody to call and bring him up to speed. And, I would hope that if it needs 40 hours a week, then we do what we gotta do. And that's, to me, would be justification for hiring somebody full-time, because, if you're paying, and I'm just gonna throw a figure out, if you're paying $50,000 to get a job done, you can hire somebody, full-time and for the same thing, and get them full-time, and for 25 hours, you're paying the same thing, you're not getting but half a week's work out of somebody. To me, that's a good justification that you need to seriously look at somebody full-time. But again, I don't know the other priorities you may have in mind, and I don't want to, preempt those that there may be a reason, but in the meantime, we can certainly, if we have to stay with the part-timer for right now, that we can increase those hours more than 25, 30, 35, whatever's needed on a per case-by-case basis. So the street situation up there, I have seen that coming back from Statesville and Points North. Just saw it last week. Gentleman had half the road blocked, pulled in on the side there on Barium Loop. And I remember thinking as I passed by, I'm glad I don't have to turn right there. And as you say, you get up there, you're kind of blind going around. And of course, you got that big turn coming up. that adds to the danger up there. So I would certainly, you know, if the honey doesn't work, then you get the fly swatter out and start handing out citations. And that's, when you start hitting people in the pocketbook with citations and fines, that seems to get the word across. So that's just my comment on that. To something a little bit more positive, well, I won't say positive, I won't say that, because all this is positive, but something a little bit more, so I'll say lighthearted. Was able to attend in the mayor's seat last Friday night at the fair. It was good. Walked around. A little surprised, I didn't see anybody wearing any masks. It's George, yeah, I met George and Becky there, and they probably saw the same thing, and but people were having a good time, and we had a good ribbon cutting. Had an opportunity to meet some of the local dignitaries as well as some of the state dignitaries, and you know, so you know, very appreciative of that, and you know, I won't get into the politics of it, but you know, the fair is on, and it seems to be getting off to a good start, and again, I was glad I was able to be there and represent the town of Troutman for the ceremony. You know, at this point in time, I'm trying, you know, you guys have done a good job of covering some of the situations, and I don't think I can add to it right now. Sometimes when things come up, I have a tendency to go ahead and address it with the town manager and so forth, and so I don't bring a lot out in open session, and so, you know, for that reason, I don't have a lot to say sometimes, but I do listen, and I do appreciate what is being said here, and it's a positive thing that if we get these things taken care of, I'm sure the citizens as well as the council and staff are in better positions in the day-to-day operation of our town. So with that, I will pass it on to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. As you said, again, good comments. Appreciate, again, council taking pride in sharing with our staff both the positive and some of the challenges that we continue to have with a handful of areas. I would say on the code enforcement side, there's certain areas that I've seen huge improvement, and hopefully that will continue. And maybe that's, to your point, maybe it's a conversation we need to have, and maybe talk with Mr. White around both priorities as well as what is it gonna take from a part-time and a full-time perspective. Maybe that can help resolve, I think, some of these similar issues, and maybe kill two birds with one stone there. So, again, appreciate that. I had a chance just to just go by our park. Park looks good. I didn't get out a little hot day to walk around and start to walk the new path there, but it looks good. Really question for Emily. I know we've got some of the sponsors, the signage already up. Do we have additional sponsors coming, or is there some conversation around, you know, I'm not sure how long the sponsor signs stay up. That's really,
in addition to the ones that are there?
yeah.
We have a couple other conversations in place, but
Okay.
I'm pretty proud of the ones we have. I think
Yeah.
we've
Yeah,
got
they
some-
look good.
Yeah, I think we've got some strong support from the community, and folks are excited. We've got a number of phone calls weekly, people wanting to rent and use the facilities, and so it's just managing that, and in addition to our youth league, you know, usage throughout the season. But there's a lot of interest in our ball field, so that's driving the interest for sponsorship too. So yeah, there's conversations for sponsoring the scoreboard that's in place right now. Those conversations, some additional conversations for some trees and benches as well. So it's coming along, just a work in progress.
Looks good. That's all I've got. Thank you. Next item is staff comments and new business. Turn over to Mr. White.
We've been very busy on the staff level. We've had, new staff member started with us this past week, Megan Edmiston. As you all will see for the upcoming agenda, we thought it was relatively quiet. October agenda will be kind of busy, but this one is relatively quiet. I would like to take an opportunity of thanking our staff up front. Emily Watson and Danielle Upright both have kicked in and not only doing the regular full-time jobs, but they have learned other full-time jobs in addition to theirs. The website is up and running. We're not tickled with it. Matter of fact, Emily, his blood pressures went up almost daily since it has started up and running, and the hosting company has just not done things to our liking, and especially Emily's, who has now is in charge of that for us as a town staff person. She's still working with each department, trying to get them to go through and make sure our paperwork is updated. We realize that there's not things the way we want them. It's not a finished product by no means, but we are definitely getting positive comments and people are liking the navigation of it a lot better. We encourage all of you to take time to go to the town website, look at it. By all means, please, if you see something that is not to your liking, let me and Emily know. If you see things that needs to be corrected, let us know. We are finding them, she's finding them, each department head's finding them, but if you see something, we may already be aware on it and working it, but if not, then that just lets us know to go and fix that. You had told us, Mayor, back at the budget retreat to go and get a new snapper. That old one was horrendous, and was subject to not last through the next budget cycle. It was put on Gov Deals, the old one, and sold. We was pleased with the price that the old one brought. The new owner of it was tickled to find one, and so both, you know, the old saying is a good deal's when both sides are happy, so both sides work. But we ordered a new Kubota. It is in, however, Kubota, as everybody has issues with COVID, they have issues in getting a spray and bed liner. So we have to wait a couple more weeks for Randy Marion to spray in the bed liner. That's who the local Kubota dealer gets to do those for them. So that will be delivered sometime soon. But before we have our next council meeting, we're looking forward to that addition to be here. There's some playground equipment that Emily also had had delivered, that it should be also installed before our next council meeting occurs, not this Thursday, not before next month. But that's also coming. Adams guys, this is the fall of the year that they will be doing fall cuttings. We had originally tried to schedule this week. Hope to got it last week, hope to this week, but with some staffing issues, we will get the park area mowed with the banks and all those trimmed back. Depending on staffing, it may be next week before we can get it done. But again, Megan Edmiston is up front and has joined us as of last week. Anna and Danielle are doing super so far. We have a young lady named Liz that is interim, helping us with our financial internal audits, and doing some things that way to make sure we're getting properly coded and everything still flowing smoothly on our town business side. Justin will be joining us as an introduction Thursday so that you all get to meet him and Megan officially, as well as a couple other employees. But again, I would like to thank all the staff that has come out and pitched in up front as we move from offices to office, trying to get things situated here. We are still working on trying to get the house next door. We've had a few bids to try to get us done so that we can eventually move planning department next door there. That will not be open to the public. The public will still meet here when they meet with the planning department, but that will be for workers only. We have submitted the real estate offers that you all approved last month. That is not a done deal as of yet. Really don't know why, but we agreed to the numbers, but the papers are not signed, so I don't know what the deal with that is. And I think that's it, as far as any updates that I have. Staff, did I leave anything out that you all wish to remind me of? The planning department, we have had several meetings, with some well-wishers and people still wanting to build and develop, but we have reminded them to get in line and the process of what is there. So we will go through that process. As I said earlier, I apologize when the mayor asked for adjustments to our agenda. I do need us to go into closed session for a legal matter. And I apologize for not making that aware when you asked appropriately, Mr. Mayor.
That's on real estate or on?
No,
That
it's
policy.
for,
Yeah, I need a policy number. You have it?
the legal matter is,
Kim, is that my cheat sheet? Okay.
That's mine.
Oh, okay.
Yours is still up there.
Okay, I was getting ready to go with mine.
143, 318, 11, 3.
Okay.
yeah. It won't necessarily, well, yes, the attorney needs to be in the room, but it's to advise you of a legal issue.
All right. So, is there a motion for us to go, add to the, agenda briefing agenda, a closed session, to discuss a legal matter according to, North Carolina General Statute 143.
318.
318,
Yes.
3.
Thank you, Gary. Is there such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, to add to the agenda. We'll add it, under, as item, 3. And move adjournment to item 4. Any other question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, you got lucky. I heard the reservation given how we spent last month, but.
Oh, it won't be nothing like that. And to close out staff comments, Mr. Mayor, I would like to also inform you all, and I had explained by text or email, it may have been both. This morning, the property at a physical address 145 Garden Street was officially recorded and donated to us. Regina and Stephen Dowdle, D-O-W-D-L-E, donated that acreage to us, to the town.
The council hasn't voted on that, they need to vote to accept it.
Thank you.
How much acreage was it?
Don't remember the exact acreage, but it was a little over 3 acres.
Okay.
One,
I can look it up.
it's parcel number 4731-65-5179.
And it's 145 Garden Street?
Yes, sir. 145 Garden Street, Troutman.
did notice, some people scraping old paint and everything at, 170 Wagner today.
Say that again, please?
I noticed some people scraping old paint
Oh,
off the
yes.
front porch and everything.
Yes. We've got, people doing work on there for us so it can be rented, yes.
So it could be what,
They're doing some work so that it can be rented.
okay.
That was, work for our realtor that did those transactions, Mike Todd. They had submitted, bids way back yonder, if you all recall, that it was gonna be in the ballpark, I don't remember exactly, of $2,000 to do all the work at that particular address to bring it up to rentable standards to turn around and be rented. And as soon as the mayor signed for that property to be closed a little over a week and a half ago, I told Mike to go ahead and proceed with getting that work done so that it could be rented. The good thing is, rent has went up
Oh, yeah.
for what the rent was in that time frame. But yes.
Can I just, before we move on, you were talking a while ago about the Gator versus the Kubota now. Are we talking about a little utility truck, or what are we talking about?
It's a little ATV type vehicle.
ATV?
Like a
Okay.
little snapper that was used to clean the ball fields and
Gotcha.
haul equipment back and forth.
Right. I was kind of thinking that, but I want to make sure we're talking.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So their Garden Street is it at the end of the street? Is it at the end of the street?
Yes, sir, in the cul-de-sac. If at the end, it'll kind of go to the left.
Okay.
And there should be a utility,
We got a sewer right away in there.
yes, sewer right of way that the town already owned. And
Just keep your acreage there, Mayor.
if you drove to the cul-de-sac, it'll be directly ahead and to the left.
Okay. I'll pull it up on GIS. Okay. In terms of upkeep, we're right now, we're handling that sewer line, I guess,
3 times a year, yes,
and
sir.
it gives us access to it. Okay. Is there a motion to accept, do you want to read that number, the PIN number again?
The PIN number is 4731-65-5179.000.
Is there a motion to accept that property as town property?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other question or comment? All those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Now that's town property, is any of that property usable land at all?
Yes, for what we would use for is pocket parks, for
You
community
answered my
gardens and those type things.
Okay.
For that stuff.
All right, you answered my question.
We eventually would like to pitch it to some of our community partners if they would like to use it for those type things.
Okay.
Especially with it being a cul-de-sac to where
Absolutely.
it can be accessed that way.
And it's certainly available to the Inglewood development as well, so it's a park that have a broad neighborhood appeal, if and when that takes place, some sort of a park of possible usage.
It's 2.9 acres.
Okay.
Want to cover the agenda?
Sir?
You want to cover the agenda?
I did.
Okay.
To to give it the highlights, just to make sure, because my covering was not very good. For Thursday, we will have consent agenda, which is the minutes, and then we will recognize Steve Shealy in his retirement, introduction of staff members, and then public comments on the old business. We are anticipating number 9 and 10 to be postponed yet once again. Is that still correct, Lynn?
That is correct, yes.
That's what I was asking.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Could I ask a quick question
Yes?
on,
I'm sorry, that's up to the mayor.
could I ask a quick
Yes,
question?
go for it.
Under the consent agenda number 5, where it's the budget amendment, the budget amendments for $340,000, and we discussed $330,000.
He did that a little extra because we will have cost and fees
Okay,
that goes with that.
thank you.
Town manager or Lynn, whichever. Under old business, and have you got down to 5 old business yet? I mean, you mentioned about the upcoming possible request for public hearing and so forth. Are we down to that yet? Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Under old business, line 9, annexation request AX-21-01, it has contiguous in parentheses, project name, Wyckoff Village. And then you go down to subsection B, near the end says the corporate limits of the town of Troutman, North Carolina, non-contiguous. I'm a little confused. We have contiguous at the top, and then we have non-contiguous towards the end of that description.
Item 9, and
Yeah, under old business,
Section
9, and then, yeah, 9, the first line,
That's contiguous, I'll fix that.
excuse me,
That's my error, I'll fix that.
It should both be contiguous.
okay.
Should be contiguous on number 9. Mhm.
That's what my email was about, Lynn. Okay.
Anything else on the agenda, Mr. White?
No, sir.
Before we go into closed session, I will not be here on Thursday night. Mr. Hinkle will cover for me.
no excuses.
We've got a lot of stuff to modify. Forgot about that.
No additional changes will be accepted. Thank you, Mr. Hinkle.
You're welcome, sir.
Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, receive a second, that we go into closed session to discuss a legal matter based on the numbers that Gary gave us earlier. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Mr. White, who you need in the room?